Page 244. Lorraine puts her arm on Marty's shoulder. Familiar physical contact suggesting an easy relationship between these two characters. And then says,
"Tonight's the big night, isn't it? Isn't tonight your big date with Jennifer Parker? She's such a nice girl. I really like her a lot."
Gipe lets us inside Marty's head and then shoots down his own rhetorical questions.
Marty could hardly believe this was his mother talking, even taking the physical transformation into account. Could this be the same woman who continually badmouthed Jennifer? Obviously not.
In both the movie and the book, Marty says that he can't go because the car's wrecked. In the movie, everyone freaks out and is all
wrecked? When the hell did this happen? And why am I told?
I'm sure the car's fine.
Why am I always the last one to know about these things?
Then they go outside and see the car is fine. In the book, nobody freaks out, but instead they take this opportunity to awkwardly hit us over the head with what happened, in case we're all as slow as Marty.
Wrecked? Dad said. He's been like this all morning, Dave explained. It's like he went to bed and woke up in a different house with strange people.
Wait, it gets better.
That was indeed the case, but Marty didn't say so.
Wow, Brother Dave sure is speaking naturally, and just like who had no idea what just happened would speak. They all calmly go out to see Biff waxing the car.
There in the driveway was a sparkling new BMW. Next to it stood Biff Tannen, polishing diligently. His expression also seemed subtly altered, devoid of the usual arrogance and belligerence. As he worked, he whistled a happy tune.
Out loud, Marty says geez, and then out loud with his family standing right beside him says,
"What a difference a belt in the chops can make."
So, altered Biff Dude goes from manager of at least George McFly, to owning his own car detailing business, which as a self-employed dude myself reviewing this crappy book I can see it as a step up. And he's given up on a lot of his anger too, which is great. And here in the book he's whistling a happy tune, which shows he's even happier. So, hooray. Happiness. But, maybe things aren't so great. There's all sorts of consequences we don't see. For example, if Biff had kids in 1985 prime that he didn't have in this new 1985, there used to be some alive kids running around that aren't running around anymore because whoops they never got born. Hope those strawberries were worth it, Marty. Or possibly the reverse is true. Biff, now blessed with a happier life, has kids in this new Hill Valley. What, you think Griff calls Biff Gramps for his health in the future? So Biff has at least one kid in this timeline, one can assume. All that aside, yes, the fact that George and Lorraine hire to wax their car the man who tore her dress and tried to rape her in high school seems incredibly weird no matter how you slice it. Page 245. An interesting difference between the movie and the book. Here in Booktopia, George asks for 2 coats of wax, and says the coat last time was a little sloppy.
"Yes, sir," Biff replied in a voice that was friendly and eager to please. "You're the boss, sir."
Meanwhile in the movie, George asks for 2 coats of wax. Biff says he's finishing up the second coat, and George says,
Now, Biff, don't con me.
I'm sorry, Mr. McFly. I meant I was just starting on the second coat.
So movie Biff still has some of his jerky ways about him, while in the book, new Biff is completely transformed and he just wants to do a really good job. Anyway, remember when Lorraine almost got raped by Biff? George and Lorraine do. They think about it with a smile.
"I've had to keep Biff in line ever since high school." Then, George added with a smile, "Although if it hadn't been for Biff, your mother and I would never have met." "Yeah, Dad," Linda interrupted. "You've told us a million times already. You beat him up when he was bothering Mom and that's how the two of you fell in love." "It was more than that," Lorraine added. "Your father literally came to my rescue." She sighed. "It was so romantic."
Ah, memories. Again, this works way better in the movie because the sexual assault was played down as much as is possible and Linda and Lorraine don't have this back and forth. Here in the book, where the word rape was used and her dress was torn open by Biff. This whole exchange is just really strange. You can read it like George and Lorraine never telling their kids the full details, but Lorraine is still really into this night. Lorraine, I don't know what your deal is. Hey, remember how Marty kept going for those time travel laughs while he was in the 50s? He's not the kind of guy to leave well enough alone, so at least he's been consistent here in the 80s.
Whatever happened to the other guy? Marty asked. What other guy? His father asked. The guy I was named after. Oh, Lorraine murmured. We never saw him again. He vanished into thin air. Then, looking at Marty closely, she said, I don't remember ever telling you about him. Well, you must have. Otherwise I wouldn't have known, would I?
And man, this exchange is winky and terrible and only exists so Marty can lord his time travel knowledge over his family, but it could have been worse. In the first draft of the movie, George goes back to a photograph of that night, looks at Marty in the photo and says something like, nah, it couldn't be. And then the movie ends, which is even winkier and terribler. While everyone is reminiscing about Lorraine's busy night, Biff walks in with a book called A Match Made in Space.